Today, I want to discuss why learning English is so necessary and how you can learn English fast with a proven learning strategy. Let's be honest about what's happening in the global job market. English has silently become the gatekeeper to opportunity, and many people don't even realize it until they found themselves struggling in their careers. Think about it. When a company has two equally qualified candidates, but one speaks fluent English and the other doesn't, who do you think gets the job? Who gets the promotion? The statistics tell us it's almost always the English speaker. This isn't just happening in English-speaking countries either. It's a worldwide phenomenon. Major multinational companies are conducting their entire operations in English. Why? Because it allows them to tap into global talent and markets without barriers to communication. The internet has only amplified this effect. Did you know that 55% of websites are written in English? That means if you don't speak English, you're immediately left behind from more than half of the online knowledge. And here's the thing that should worry us all. This language gap isn't shrinking, it's growing wider, especially in our increasingly digital economy. As more businesses go global and more work happens online, English continues to dominate in business, education, and technology. The divide between English speakers and non-English speakers is becoming more significant every year. But there's good news too. Unlike many other factors that influence career success, language skills are something you can develop. You have control over this part of your future. What we're seeing now is that English proficiency isn't just a nice bonus on your resume anymore. It's becoming the essential key that unlocks global opportunities in 2025 and beyond. It's the difference between being able to access the full range of opportunities or being limited to a smaller pool. It's about having choices and freedom in your career path. What if I told you that 95% of scientific articles are published in English, even though only half come from English-speaking countries? This staggering statistic reveals an uncomfortable truth. The key to accessing human knowledge isn't just intelligence or curiosity, it's your ability to understand English. While we've talked about how language barriers impact career opportunities, there's an even more fundamental advantage at stake: your access to education and knowledge itself. Think about it. When nearly all scientific discoveries are documented in a language that most of the world doesn't speak fluently, we're not just talking about missing out on job promotions anymore. We're talking about brilliant minds being left behind from the very information that could help them solve problems, advance their research, or pursue their academic dreams. This language barrier isn't just theoretical, it creates real obstacles for talented students everywhere. Imagine being a brilliant, not fluent English-speaking physics student who can't access the latest research in your field simply because of language. The gates to educational opportunity are heavily guarded by English requirements. The world's most prestigious universities require English proficiency for admission. These institutions aren't just centers of learning, they're the path to career advancement. When English proficiency becomes a prerequisite for entry, millions of brilliant students find themselves excluded from elite education simply because they haven't mastered this one language. The digital learning revolution has only widened this gap. Online platforms offer thousands of courses, but primarily in English. Approximately 52% of the world's most visited websites are in English, creating an invisible barrier to self-education. The Internet promised democratized knowledge for everyone, but in reality, it's most accessible to those who speak English. The impact extends beyond just accessing knowledge. Research consistently shows that English proficiency correlates with higher academic achievement across multiple fields. Students who can confidently read, write, and discuss in English have access to a wider range of educational materials and resources. They can participate in international conferences, collaborate with researchers worldwide, and contribute to global academic conversations. Even scholarship opportunities often require proof of English proficiency. Many international funding programs expect applicants to demonstrate their language skills, creating yet another barrier for talented students who haven't mastered English. So I have to ask, what opportunities might you be missing in your own educational journey? Which doors remain closed, not because you lack intelligence or ambition, but simply because of a language barrier? Here's the powerful truth. English skills can open doors to the world's top universities and educational programs, creating a snowball effect of opportunity. Each educational advancement leads to the next, building momentum that can transform your life trajectory. That scholarship leads to that university program, which leads to that research opportunity, which leads to that career breakthrough, all building upon your initial investment in English proficiency. Beyond the academic advantages we just discussed, English proficiency creates a striking divide between two types of travelers, those who experience places and those who experience people. Think about it. When was the last time you saw airport signs that didn't include English translations? Or hotel staff who couldn't speak at least basic English? This isn't a coincidence. It's a global adaptation to make travel more accessible. But the impact goes deeper than just convenience. Research shows that travelers who can communicate in English report over 40% higher satisfaction with their journeys. That's not a small difference when you can ask questions, understand answers, and engage with people meaningfully. Your entire travel experience transforms. I want you to think about your own travel experiences for a moment. Have you ever felt that invisible barrier between you and the local culture because of language barriers? Even with intermediate English skills, you can break through that invisible barrier. You don't need perfect grammar or an extensive vocabulary. You just need enough to start a conversation, ask questions, and show interest in the people and culture around you. That's when doors start opening to experiences that money can't buy. Being invited to a family dinner, learning local customs firsthand, or hearing stories that help you understand a place beyond its surface appearance. Those meaningful travel connections we just talked about do more than enhance your journey, they transform your brain. When you push yourself to communicate in English, stumbling through phrases and eventually succeeding, you're literally rewiring your neural pathways. This isn't just about learning words, it's about rebuilding yourself from the inside out. Have you ever wondered why 78% of English learners report increased confidence in all areas of life, not just when they're speaking English? Let me tell you, There's something almost magical that happens when you master a new language, especially one as globally influential as English. It creates this ripple effect that touches parts of your life you wouldn't expect. Think about those moments when you've had something important to say, but couldn't find the right words. Maybe it was in a meeting at work or during a conversation with someone you admired. That feeling of having thoughts trapped inside your mind is incredibly frustrating, right? It's like having a voice but being unable to use it. Many of our listeners describe this feeling as being half present in important moments of their lives. But here's where it gets really interesting. According to a study, learning a new language actually changes your brain structure. The researchers found that bilingualism physically enhances areas responsible for memory and conscious thought. Your brain isn't just learning new words, it's developing new neural pathways that improve your overall cognitive abilities. This helps explain why bilingual people often show improved cognitive flexibility. They can switch between tasks more efficiently and make more rational decisions when thinking in their second language. It's like your brain gains a new perspective, a different angle from which to approach problems. This isn't just about communication, it's about developing a more adaptable mind. When you learn English, you're constantly making mistakes, adjusting, and improving. This process builds a special kind of mental toughness that helps you overcome social anxiety and enhances your overall life skills. It's like going to the gym, but for your confidence muscles. What we're seeing is that English proficiency creates this positive cycle. As your language skills improve, your confidence grows. As your confidence grows, you take on new challenges. As you succeed in those challenges, your confidence expands even further. Before long, you're a different person, not just someone who speaks better English, but someone who approaches life with greater self-assurance. So while English opens doors to better jobs, education, and travel experiences as we've discussed, perhaps its greatest gift is this internal transformation. The language becomes a vehicle for personal growth that extends far beyond vocabulary and grammar. It's about becoming a more confident, capable version of yourself, someone who can express their thoughts, navigate complex situations. The personal growth journey we've been discussing is powerful, but here's a shocking reality check. Despite spending 4 to 7 years studying English in school, only 25% of learners can actually hold a basic conversation afterward. Think about that for a moment. All those years of dedicated study, and most people still freeze when faced with a real-world English conversation. This isn't just disappointing, it's a systemic failure. Why does this happen? The traditional classroom approach to English learning is fundamentally flawed. When we look at how most schools teach English, we see an overwhelming focus on what I call the perfection before practice model. You've probably experienced this yourself: grammar practice, vocabulary memorization, and written exercises, but very little actual speaking. You can memorize every grammar rule, but without regular practice, producing the language yourself, fluency remains frustratingly out of reach. This leads us to a critical distinction that most traditional methods completely ignore: the difference between passive and active language skills. Passive skills involve recognizing and understanding language, like when you read a text or listen to someone speaking. Active skills require you to produce language yourself through speaking and writing. Traditional classrooms heavily favor passive learning, leaving the active skills underdeveloped. Did you ever notice how many English learners can understand a movie without subtitles, but struggle to order food at a restaurant? That's the passive-active divide in action. This creates what language researchers call the fluency gap, that painful distance between knowing English rules and being able to use them naturally in conversation. It's like having all the ingredients for a delicious meal, but not knowing how to cook them. The knowledge is there, but the practical application skill is missing. The good news? This gap isn't your fault. The traditional system itself contains a fundamental design flaw. When language is taught as a subject to be studied, rather than a tool to be used, this disconnect is practically guaranteed. But here's where things get exciting. There's a completely different approach to learning English, one that can produce more real-world fluency in a few months than years of traditional study. This approach flips the traditional model upside down. Instead of perfecting grammar before speaking, it prioritizes communication first and refinement later. This revolutionary method focuses on active production from day one. Just like children learn their native language by speaking imperfectly and gradually improving, adult learners thrive when they're encouraged to communicate immediately. The research is crystal clear. Learners who speak from the beginning, even with errors, progress faster than those who wait until they know enough. The mindset shift is profound. Rather than viewing English as a complex academic subject with thousands of rules to master before you're ready, this approach treats it as a practical skill, like cooking or driving, that improves through regular use. Imagine learning to ride a bicycle by first memorizing the physics of balance for years before touching the bike. Sounds absurd, right? Yet, that's exactly how most of us were taught English. The path to fluency isn't through perfection, it's through practice, making mistakes, and continuous improvement. By embracing imperfection and prioritizing real communication, you can bypass years of frustration and start experiencing the confidence and connection that comes with actually using English in real life. Now that we understand why embracing imperfection leads to real progress, let me introduce you to a framework that can transform how you learn English. What if I told you there's a system so aligned with how your brain naturally processes language that it could help you achieve more in the next 90 days than you have in years of traditional study? This isn't just another learning technique, it's a complete paradigm shift. While most English learners jump randomly between different resources, watching a YouTube video today, using a language app tomorrow, and struggling through a textbook next week, successful learners follow a structured approach. This is where the revolutionary 4MAT system comes in. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how scattered most learning approaches are? You might learn some vocabulary on Monday, then switch to grammar on Tuesday with no clear connection between the two. It's like trying to build a house by randomly placing bricks without a blueprint. The 4MAT system gives you that blueprint. The system consists of 4 essential components that work together to create a complete learning cycle. The first component is why. This is where you connect your English learning journey to your motivations and life goals. Are you learning English to advance your career? To travel more confidently? To connect with people from different cultures? When you clearly understand your why, your brain becomes naturally motivated to learn. The second component is what. This is where you identify the core concepts and patterns that make English make sense. Instead of memorizing endless lists of isolated rules, you'll focus on understanding the fundamental patterns that appear repeatedly in the language. This creates a framework that helps your brain organize new knowledge more effectively. The third component is how. This is where the real magic happens. You'll implement practical strategies that focus on using English in real-world situations rather than striving for textbook perfection. Remember, communication first, refinement later. These strategies might include language exchanges, deliberate practice sessions, focused on your weakest points, or immersion techniques that fit into your daily routine. The final component is what if. This is where you apply your new skills in progressively challenging real-life scenarios. Maybe you start by ordering food at a restaurant, then advance to having a 10-minute conversation with a stranger, and eventually participate in a work meeting conducted entirely in English. Each success builds confidence for the next challenge. The beauty of this system is that it works because it aligns perfectly with how our brains naturally acquire language. We need motivation first, then understanding, followed by practice, and finally real-world application. Studies show that learners who apply this structured method can achieve remarkable improvements in a relatively short time. Many report significant progress within just 90 days, progress that traditional methods might take years to produce. It's not about studying harder, it's about studying smarter. And here's the best part. You can implement this system immediately, using resources you already have. That language exchange app on your phone? Perfect for the how component. Those YouTube videos you enjoy? Great for the what component. Your upcoming vacation or business trip? An ideal opportunity for the what if component. Countless students transformed their English skills using this approach. But let's be honest, committing to months to learning English might feel like climbing Mount Everest when you're just starting out. What if I told you that meaningful transformation in your English skills can begin in just 21 days? This isn't about overnight fluency, it's about creating lasting habits that compound over time, changing your relationship with English forever. Our brains are remarkably adaptable. Science shows that consistent practice over just 3 weeks can establish neural pathways that make behaviors feel natural and automatic. That's why I'm excited to share this 21-day plan that turns overwhelming goals into manageable daily actions. Let's address the elephant in the room, finding time. Between work, family, and other responsibilities, carving out study hours seems impossible. But here's the truth. Effective language learning doesn't require hours of study. Research shows that focused 30-minute sessions can be incredibly effective, especially when incorporated into your existing routine. Here's what your daily 30 minutes might look like. Start with 5 minutes to your why. Remind yourself how English will help you reach specific life goals. Then spend 10 minutes on targeted learning, maybe vocabulary related to your profession or a grammar point you've been struggling with. Next, dedicate 10 minutes to actually using what you've learned through speaking or writing. Finally, take 5 minutes to challenge yourself by imagining how you'd use this knowledge in real-world situations. The beauty of this approach is its flexibility. That podcast you listen to during your commute? Choose an English one instead. Those social media breaks throughout your day? Follow English content creators. Even your entertainment time can become English practice with the right shows and subtitle settings. Let's talk about resources. YouTube offers thousands of free English lessons tailored to every level and interest. Language exchange apps connect you with native speakers for conversation practice. Podcasts, designed for learners, provide authentic listening practice you can enjoy while cooking or exercising. The key isn't finding more resources, it's using fewer resources more consistently. Now, for the challenges you'll face. Time constraints are real, but by integrating English into existing activities, rather than adding new ones, you can practice without sacrificing your schedule. Feeling embarrassed when speaking? Remember that everyone starts somewhere, and those awkward conversations are precisely what build neural pathways for fluency. Hit a plateau where progress seems to stall. That's actually a sign you're ready to increase the challenge level of your materials. To keep yourself motivated, let's establish clear benchmarks. By day 7, aim to consistently complete your daily 30-minute routine without skipping days. Success here isn't about performance, it's about being consistent. By day 14, you should notice increased comfort with materials that previously challenged you. This is your brain adapting to new patterns. And by day 21, you'll find yourself thinking in English during parts of your day without consciously trying. The most exciting part? Around day 10, many learners experience a noticeable shift in confidence. Sentences that once required mental translation start flowing more naturally. Words that used to hide when you needed them suddenly appear on demand. This isn't magic, it's what happens when small, consistent efforts compound day after day. The transformation we're talking about isn't about finding more time in your busy day. It's about making better use of the time you already have through strategic, consistent practice. Just 30 focused minutes daily will outperform hours of sporadic, unfocused study every time. Today, we've explored how English has become the primary language of international communication with an astonishing 2 billion people worldwide currently studying it. This journey of learning English isn't just about memorizing vocabulary or mastering grammar. It's about transforming your future possibilities. The beauty of this journey is that it enhances so much more than just communication skills. Learning English opens doors to a wealth of knowledge, educational resources, and cultural experiences that might otherwise remain inaccessible. It's a pathway to personal growth that extends far beyond the language itself. So what's your next step? Today, right now, commit to your English learning journey. Remember, you don't need perfect English to start seeing the benefits in your life. Just 30 minutes of daily practice with the 4MAT system we discussed can set you on an incredible path forward. Your future self will thank you for starting today.